Cadence POV.
I stood in the corner of the playroom, my eyes narrowed and alert as I watched Amaya squat beside Declan and pinch his cheeks lightly. It had been 4 days since I first let her see him, and she had been here every single day since then, but I still had not gotten used to seeing her by his side. Every time she touched him, I had the overwhelming urge to jump across the room and take him away from her. But my legs stayed rooted to the floor. I continued to watch as she tried to make conversation with Declan, offering him the gift box she had brought along with her today. When Declan showed no interest in even touching the box, she took it upon herself to unwrap it. As expected, it was filled with toys. I watched with bated breath as Declan turned his attention back to the box. "You like toys, don't you, Decky?" I nearly rolled my eyes at her nickname for him. Declan nodded, but made no move to pick any of them up. Instead, he moved away and sat in one of his tiny plastic chairs, fumbling with an empty jar on the table. I relaxed. To him, she was just a stranger. In the real sense, Declan was supposed to be drawn to Amaya through the cub-to-she-wolf bond, but it did not seem to be apparent. I suspected that was because he never had the chance to even fully form the bond. Amaya sucked in a deep breath. I could tell she was frustrated at Declan's little participation. I watched as she sighed and scooted over to him, a smile on her face. "You like jars, Decky? Tell me what you want, anything at all." She could not mask the desperation in her voice, and I secretly felt an evil streak in me. That should teach her. Maybe she thought taking care of a child was nothing but a walk in the park. There was so much more to it. Learning their mannerisms, their likes and dislikes, their method of communication, it wasn't just something that came naturally after 3 years of absence. It was good she was learning. And knowing her, she would probably take off again when she saw how difficult it was. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she suddenly stopped showing up. She had always been a coward. It was the exact reason why I didn't even want her close to Declan at all. And I was beyond glad that Declan showed no signs of warming up to her. "Decky?" Amaya repeated, ruffling his hair. Big mistake. He hated getting his hair touched. He let out a loud yelp and backed away from her. "Daddy!" he called out. Feeling triumphant, albeit protective of him, I brushed past Amaya and picked him up, kissing his forehead gently until he relaxed. Slowly, I walked around the playroom and bounced him gently until he relaxed. Once he was quiet again, I put him back in his chair and let him play with his jars. A smile made its way to my face as I watched him play. I was reminded of how much I loved my son whenever I looked at him, and would damn well protect him against any harm. Maybe that was why I was so on edge about Amaya being around him. I did not want him to get hurt. "Wow. How did you do that?" I turned at the sound of Amaya's voice to see her hovering behind me, her eyes wide as she stared at Declan, who was calm once again. He barely even looked at me for more than 2 seconds, and when I tried to touch him, he literally yelled. She shook her head as though in awe. "He's a little piece of work, huh?" I paused at her words. "A piece of work? Is that why you left the first time?" No, that's not. Save your explanations for someone dumb enough to believe it. I don't know what the hell you think you're doing, but if you truly believe for 1 second that I'd ever leave Declan in the care of someone who uses phrases like piece of work to address a child, then you're even dumber than I made you out to be. Go home, Amaya." For a while she was silent, which was new because ever since she materialized back into my life, she always had something to run her mouth about. We watched Declan play in complete silence, and then she scooted a little closer to me. "I've always been hopeless when it comes to things like this," she said. "But just like the others, it will pass. It always does." I felt no response was necessary, so I did not give one. "Remember when I nearly burned the house down trying to cook?" She suddenly began to laugh. "It was a week after our wedding and I was still trying to impress you. If you hadn't sensed it and come to save me, there probably wouldn't even be a mansion right now. Do you remember that?" My jaw clenched at her question. I hated that I remembered, even though I had willed myself to wipe out every memory of her. I hated that I could not just wipe her off in one swipe. But there was no point bringing it up again, I reasoned. The past was in the past. "That was years ago," I finally grunted in response. "What does that have to do with anything?" I saw her cock an eyebrow before she walked even closer to me. Her eyes slowly ran over my face, down to my arms, and then my legs. I've also never known you to be so uptight, Caden, she whispered, running her fingertips over my bare arm. That tramp obviously doesn't know how to take care of you. I gripped her wrist tighter than necessary, pulling her hand off mine. Don't you ever refer to my wife like that. Your wife? When my grip on her wrist didn't loosen, she finally nodded painfully. Okay, I won't. I let her go and pulled myself up to walk over to the corner of the room where I leaned against the wall. I shut my eyes, trying to push out all the thoughts. I was tired, in all honesty. I did not give a fuck about Amaya anymore, but I would be lying if I said her presence here did not affect me. It irked me to the core, it disgusted me, it reminded me of my beta who betrayed me. I just wanted her to leave. I missed Larissa and I missed my son too. They were my real family. Amaya being here was disrupting a lot of things. I thought long and hard about how to solve this situation. Everyone was uncomfortable. Larissa was, too, but she was trying to avoid it completely. I wondered if Amaya was here for some other reason. Every time I brought up the divorce papers, she always found a way to wave them off. Something told me that she wanted to get Declan first, but we both knew I would die before I ever let that happen. So, what do? I needed her to sign the papers and be on her way before this whole thing escalated. No ideas came to mind, and so, there and then, I decided that if nothing else worked, I would have no other option than to make her sign the papers, forcefully or otherwise. I checked the time on my watch, reminding myself to tell Larissa about my decision as soon as I saw her. According to the time, Amaya had about 30 minutes left to be here before she would leave. Good. I needed her out. It already seemed like she'd been here forever. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, she appeared immediately in front of me. Caden, she began, placing her arm on top of mine again. I made to fling it off but paused when I saw Declan looking our way. I slowly lowered my arm, not wanting to display any violence in front of him. What do you want, Amaya? I asked under my breath, feeling irritated. What do you really want? I don't understand it. Why did you choose this period to show up in my life? Do you get off on ruining people's lives now? I wouldn't be surprised. I tried to keep the venom out of my tone, but it was harder than I expected. I'm here for my son, Caden. Cut the bullshit. I'm not an idiot, and you should know that by now. You might have been able to lie and fool your way into my home, but don't try it again. I thought you were here for Declan too. Hell, I actually believed it at one point. But anyone would be a fool to believe you would ever show remorse. You say you're here to see Declan, but you don't even keep to time. And when you do arrive, it's with a face caked with makeup, a tight dress and heels that won't even let you play with your son. If you were really intentional about getting to know him again, you would actually put in the work. Dress appropriately in playroom attire. But no, you just sit there afraid to mess up your manicure and try to make conversation with me. So I'll ask you again, what are you doing here? She was silent for a few seconds, and then I saw her eyes glaze over. Fine, you're right. I am here for something else, but it doesn't mean I don't care about Declan. I did not respond, waiting for her to keep talking. I thought I'd be happier when I left, she started again, her fingers tightening around my arm. But I wasn't. Nick was great in bed, but he never made me feel the way you did. The mention of my former beta was like a stab to my chest. I did not want to remember that shit anymore. Get your hands off, Amaya, I said as gently as I could. I was trying not to cause a scene in front of Declan, but she was doing a fine job of provoking me. I wasn't sure if I could help it. She refused to let go. She pressed herself closer to me until her chest was pressed hard against mine. I miss you, Caden. I miss everything, how we fell in love, our wedding, the beautiful times we had together, the laughter, the joy. Remember how crazy we used to be, having sex in every corner of the mansion. Her lips curved into a smile as she pressed even closer. You can't tell me you don't miss it too, Caden. I stared at her for a few moments, speechless. Was she fucking delusional? So this was the root of everything she had been doing. She had been trying to get back to me. I stared at her desperately trying to expose her cleavage to me, and I did not feel anger. I felt complete and utter disgust. She was the most shameless person I had ever met. After everything she'd done to me, she really thought flashing her boobs at me would change a thing. And she was doing this shamelessly in front of Declan. My chest heaved with anger. I think you should leave now. You've outstayed your welcome. I gripped her arm and began to drag her to the door. Caden, she begged, forcing her arm out of my grip and flinging it around my neck. What the hell is wrong with you? I still love you. I love you so much, baby. I miss your touch, your kisses, I miss everything. Before I could comprehend the whole situation, Amaya had flung herself at me. She gripped my collar and crashed her lips on mine in a kiss. At the same time, the door was pushed open and I saw Larissa walk in. She froze at the sight in front of her, and I pushed Amaya off me at the same time. My eyes widened at the realization of how this looked. Larissa, wait. But she had already turned away with tear-glazed eyes and raced out of the playroom. Anger surged through me as I grabbed Amaya roughly. What the hell did you do that for? I hissed. She looked on wordlessly, and I shoved her away and rushed after Larissa, my heart pounding. She needed to know this was all a misunderstanding. I needed her to believe me. I couldn't afford to lose her. I couldn't let that happen.
Larissa's POV.
I furiously swiped the tears out of my eyes as I hurried down the hall. My chest was tight and my heart was shattering into a million pieces. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me like this? Betrayal. It sounded so foreign when it was in relation to Caden. It was not something I could associate him with. But after what I'd just seen, I realized it wasn't so far-fetched after all. I ran. I ran like I could escape my reality if I got far enough. I wanted to stop. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fall to my knees and tear at my hair until I didn't feel this much pain anymore. But I couldn't. The image of Caden and Amaya pressed together in a kiss continued to flash through my head no matter how many times I tried to block it out. Why would he do this to me? In a million years I would never have believed Caden would willingly hurt me. It still felt like a dream. As I ran aimlessly, I instinctively pinched my own arm. Hard. I needed it to be a mistake. Some sort of dream. Anything else at all that explained what I'd just seen. It couldn't be real. My eyes must have been playing tricks on me. That was the only plausible explanation. But the pain that shot up my arm at the pinch said the exact opposite. I did it again just to be sure, and there it was again, the pain. Tears spilled out of my eyes again as I shook my head in desperation. How could he do this to me? The question continued to resound in my head. The more I tried to make sense of it, the weaker I became. I didn't understand it. What was it exactly? Was it all the time they were spending together? Did being in close proximity with her stir up old feelings? After all, she was someone he used to love. That thought was like a stab to my heart. I couldn't bear it, I couldn't take it anymore. Meeting Caden had made life seem worth living, but now even that had been snatched away from me. A sharp pain shot through me. Things just never worked out for me. Maybe I just was not destined for happiness. The tears continued to stream down my face as I ran. I immediately regretted ever trying to find Caden in the first place. I should have just stayed in my room. I should have just alleviated my worries on my own and left him alone till later. But I didn't. I had sought him out in a bid to speak to him on matters I was worried Amaya's presence would bring up. I had never dreamed for one second that my greatest fears were actually a reality. I didn't know what to believe anymore. One thing for certain was that I knew exactly what I saw. They were kissing. Caden was kissing someone else. Caden had kissed another woman. Caden had kissed his ex-wife. I jerked backwards, my hands against the wall as a broken sob escaped my throat. I told myself I would not cry anymore because of the entire Amaya situation, but I couldn't help it. I'd known that she'd been a problem from the first time she showed up, but how could I have known it would create problems between Caden and I? Larissa! I suddenly heard a voice call out. Caden. Immediately, I shut my eyes. He was following me, running after me, but why? What could he possibly say? What could he say that would justify him kissing his ex-wife? I wiped the tears off my face and took off running again. I couldn't face him, I didn't want to. Seeing him now would make me explode, and I did not want a situation where I would say things I would later regret. I just wanted to be left alone. I was almost at the courtyard when I felt a hand pull at my arm. "What?" I screamed, not bothering to see who it was. "Larissa? Why are you crying? Is everything okay?" I snatched my arm away. "Just leave me the hell alone, Gwen. Go back to your duties and just leave me the fuck alone." I took off again before she could respond. As I ran, fresh tears formed in my eyes. I was being an asshole to my friend, twice already today. I stifled the sob that threatened to escape me. What was wrong with me? I had always believed I was a good person, but what if I had just been fooling myself the whole time? What if I had been delusional all this while? Maybe I really was a bad person. Maybe there was something wrong with me. That's why Caden doesn't want me anymore. The tears fell in rivulets. I did not bother wiping them off this time. What was the point? I was just tired. I was so tired. I don't know how long I stood there just staring into space, but a while later I heard the ruffle of footsteps behind me. Immediately, I turned. At the sight of Caden, all the self-loathing in my chest was replaced by hot, red rage. "Get away from me," I warned, my voice trembling. Caden paused in his steps, bringing his hand forward and shaking his head. "Issa, please, I know your state of mind is a little messed up right now." "My state of mind is fine," I yelled. "I'm fine, okay? Stop trying to make this about me. I know what I saw." Caden shook his head. "I know what it looked like, but if you'd just let me explain, you'd understand." She threw herself at me. "Issa. You saw me push her away. I would never, ever hurt you." I shut my eyes tight. "Stop lying to me." My chest was throbbing. "You kissed her. I saw it, and I'm certain of it. Just admit it instead of hurting me more by lying." He moved closer to me and held my hand. "Issa, I swear to you, it's not what it looked like." She kissed me. She came onto me, trying to get into my head and remind me of old times. Obviously, it didn't work. But then she kissed me. It was sudden and unexpected, and I pushed her away immediately. "I need you to believe me. I need you to say you believe me, Larissa." I stared into his eyes, unable to read him. He sounded genuine enough, but something in the back of my mind could not help but fuel with rage. Why did everyone keep lying to me, trying to deceive me? I wiped the tears off my cheeks and stared at him. "Do you still love her?" I watched the pleading look in Caden's eyes slowly melt away. His jaw clenched. "What?" His voice was low. "Do you still have feelings for her? Is that why you made almost zero effort to stop her from coming to visit Declan? Is that why you let her kiss you? Is that it? Why would you ask me that? You know how I feel about Amaya. You know how much I detest her." "Do I?" I could not hold back the anger anymore. "I don't know what the hell to believe anymore, Caden. Everything has been falling apart from the moment she stepped into that wedding hall, and you don't seem to be doing much about it." Caden immediately flared up. "I don't seem to be doing much about it? What do you think I've been trying to do for the past few days? Did you ever think for 1 second how all of this has been affecting me? She abandoned me and her son, cheated on me with my beta, disappeared without a trace, and now I'm being shoved in the same room as her and forced to be cordial so I can get her to sign the divorce papers. For you, all of this is for you. Because I fucking love you, Larissa. But all you choose to do is stand there and accuse me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have kissed her." I snapped. "She kissed me. And maybe if you trusted me enough, it wouldn't be so hard for you to believe." "Maybe you should give me reasons to trust you, then." I pulled myself away from him and slowly backed away. I could feel myself growing weaker by the second. I was tired. So tired. Tears filled my eyes again, and this time a loud sob escaped me before I could stop it. I sobbed into my hands, exhausted from the inside out. "Why?" I whimpered. Why? I tried to walk away, but my feet felt like lead. The world was beginning to spin around me. "Larissa." Caden's voice sounded distant. I could barely hear him. My breath seized, my legs giving way beneath me. Larissa! I fell helplessly to the ground in a heap and I could feel myself slowly losing consciousness. The last thing I heard before I blacked out was Caden screaming my name and yelling out to someone to fetch the doctor.
Caden's POV.
My feet were rooted to the ground as I watched Larissa stagger on her feet. We were both fighting and yelling at each other that I did not even notice when she began to drift into unconsciousness. I watched in horror as she slipped down to the floor, and immediately my instincts kicked in. "Larissa!" I yelled in shock. But before I could get to where she was, she had fallen to the floor with a loud thud. "Larissa!" My voice rang through the hall. I jumped to the floor and pulled her into my arms, supporting her head and calling out her name. "Issa, can you hear me?" I shook her hard, but her eyes were closed and I could barely hear the sound of her breathing. "Is anyone there?" I roared loudly, fear gripping me as I watched Larissa seem to fade farther and farther away from me. A servant emerged from the top of the stairs, and I quickly motioned to her. "Get the pack doctor. Now. I'll be in my chambers." As I gave the orders, I hurriedly picked Larissa up and carried her up the stairs to my room. My heart thudded in my chest as I walked, and I prayed to the moon goddess to spare her. Guilt rushed through me at the sight of her, and I silently cursed myself for letting this argument get to this point. I shouldn't have tried to make her listen to me when she was so upset. I should have let her be. I should have let her cool off before I went in search of her. The last thing I wanted was to hurt her, and now it had happened, I was hurting too. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, although I knew she could not hear me. As soon as I got to my chambers, I kicked the door open and carried her to the bed, gently placing her there and propping her head up on a pillow. She still did not stir. I was more worried than ever now. I placed a hand to her forehead and realized she was burning up. Where the hell was Annalise? I was distracted by the sound of the doors bursting open, and I turned to face Annalise. "Thank the goddess," I sighed in relief. Come. She was at Larissa's side in a moment. I watched with bated breath as she checked Larissa for signs. Finally, she faced me again. "What happened?" I began to explain, but then froze. I did not wish to air our matters in the open. This was between Larissa and I wanted it to stay that way. We were having an argument and she just fainted, I said. That was a good explanation without giving too much away. Annalise nodded thoughtfully. "She just slumped?" "Yes." She nodded again and then motioned to another maid who was standing by the door. My head was still spinning as I listened to Annalise describe a certain plant she needed the maid to bring to her. The maid nodded and disappeared. "What's wrong with her?" I asked, unable to keep the worry out of my voice. "Is she going to be okay?" "Yes, Alpha, she will. Her pulse is very weak, and her breathing shallow. That's a bit of a problem. But after she ingests the potion I'm about to make, she will be much better." I relaxed, shutting my eyes tight in gratitude. Thank the goddess. I don't know what I would have done if something happened to her because of me. "You're sure she'll be okay?" I asked again just to make sure. Annalise nodded. "She will. Fainting is normal when you're under a lot of stress," she explained. That must have been some argument you two were having. The question underneath her words could not be hidden, but I was not about to discuss that with her. So I avoided the question completely. "I'm just glad she'll be okay. Is there anything I can do?" "She'll need space to recuperate and breathe. That means the fewer people the better. Is it okay if I call you when she wakes up?" I did not answer immediately as I continued to stare at Larissa's peaceful face. I did not want to leave her. I would have gladly stayed by her side until she awakened so I could apologize for putting her through so much. But I also knew I should listen to the pack doctor if I wanted Larissa to heal quickly. She needed to be eased back into the present, and maybe waking up to see me wasn't what she needed. Resignedly, I turned away from the bed and moved outside. I could not relax, so I busied myself by pacing around, thoughts shooting all around my mind. I despised the way things were going at the moment. From the moment Amaya came back into my life, things had been a mess. I had tried to solve it on my own and keep the peace just so she could sign the divorce papers and go away, but all my efforts had gone to waste. It had only created a rift between Larissa and I. A rift that had widened by the day without me realizing. I needed to put a cork in this matter and have it settled. I did not want to lose Larissa's trust. It was one thing that kept me going through bad times, and I don't know what I would do if it went away. I loved her so much. I wanted her happy and comfortable. I wanted her to be fine. I was still pacing when I heard a sound beside me. I looked up to see the Gemini approaching me. They looked worried, and I immediately knew they'd discovered something. Alpha, they both greeted. What happened? The both of them exchanged looks, sighing, and then Jacob spoke up. Alpha, we have some news for you, and you're not going to like it.
Cadence POV.
I frowned. What bad news could they be talking about? What is it? I asked, preparing myself mentally for whatever it turned out to be. Again, they exchanged looks. After a lot of spying and questioning, we finally found the mystery pack that has had it out for Griffinhowl for months now. My breath caught and I stared on in surprise. Why did they look so somber, then? This was good news. So much had been going on that I forgot about that completely. This was great news. I knew the amount of torment we had been receiving from that godforsaken pack, and the fact that we had finally uncovered them was a huge step to defeating them once and for all.
And?
I asked, excited for the first time in a while. My senses were whirring with adrenaline, and I wanted to jump right off to the location and destroy the whole lot of them. Unfortunately, we couldn't find out the exact location of their pack. The pack members are scattered in so many different places. We believe this is another one of their schemes to avoid detection. They do not want their actual location to be revealed, so they are in groups to throw off anyone who may come sniffing around. I could not hide my disappointment at their words, but I tried to downplay it. At least we were a step further than we've been in weeks.
However,
I heard Jacob say, making my ears perk up. There was more? We were able to uncover the identity of their leader, their alpha. Who is it? He went silent for a few seconds. Stefan Token Moon. For the first few seconds my brain could not seem to process what I'd just heard. And when it kicked in, I swore under my breath. Larissa's ex-husband. The same man I had met for the first time only a few days ago. That was the same person who had been making hell for Griffinhowl Pack. That bastard. I gritted my teeth in anger. I knew there was something off about him right from the beginning. My wolf could sense it. And my wolf was never wrong. That day I met him, it had come as a shock that Larissa's ex was in our home, and naturally I was pissed, especially since he had put her through so much in the past. Larissa had handled him perfectly that day, and there was no need for me to tail him. But there was something about him that troubled my wolf, something did not seem right about him, and I hadn't been able to put my finger on it. But now it was out in the open. I wished I had ripped his heart out that day and had him imprisoned. What should we do next, Alpha? I heard Jacob ask. I frowned, working through a plan in my mind. For now, just keep close. Keep following them until you find out where the mansion is located. I am sure they have a stakeout aside from the official Token Moon mansion, so I want you to find it. Take a day's rest before you return back to your duties, and then report to me afterwards. As they both bowed and muttered their thanks, I nodded and waved them away. Once again, I was alone trying to piece together the information I had just received. I couldn't believe it. That fucking bastard. I was going to kill him. I would make him suffer to the point where he would regret ever trying to hunt me down and come near my family. The fact that he was Larissa's ex-husband was just another reason to hate him. I was jerked out of my thoughts when I heard the door to my chambers swing open. Immediately, I rushed forward. It had been an hour since the pack doctor requested I step out of the room, and this was the first time she had emerged. How is she? I asked before she could even say anything. When she did not speak at first, my heart sank. I began to fear for the worst.
Did something happen?
I asked, my voice shaky. My mind was beginning to race with a million possibilities, and I prayed that Larissa was okay. She's fine, Alpha. She is in perfect health. I relaxed, exhaling in relief. But the look on her face did not go away. What is it? I asked. You might want to come inside for this, she said, and led me to the room. I followed, my face contorting in confusion. Larissa was still unconscious when we walked in. I noticed a few things while I was examining her, so I decided to do a full body examination instead. Annalise began. Okay? To cut it short, you're going to be a father to another child. Larissa is 2 months pregnant. Annalise announced, breaking into a smile. My jaw dropped. What? For a few minutes I was speechless. She's pregnant? I repeated, still in disbelief. I moved closer to the bed and moved my hand gently over Larissa's stomach. Larissa was carrying my child. Sudden joy burst through me and a smile broke through my face. Nothing else mattered in this moment. I was going to be a father.
I'm having a baby.
I said. Yuri having a baby, Annalise repeated. Without thinking, I hugged her. I'm having a baby, I said again. For the first time in days, a hearty laugh burst through me. I couldn't believe this. Larissa was carrying my child. I was so overwhelmed with joy that I could barely breathe. I moved to Larissa again and hugged her tight, kissing her forehead although she was asleep. I gently put her back on the bed when I remembered I wasn't supposed to make any sudden movements that could harm the baby. I'm having another child, I announced more to myself than to anyone else. This was amazing. I needed to get my life together and make things right. Every single thing that was wrong now needed to be corrected. I needed to get rid of Amaya, by any means necessary. I needed to make things right with Larissa. We had to start our family the right way, the healthy way. And I was so excited for it. We need to celebrate, I said. As soon as Larissa awakens, we need to do something small and beautiful. Something she would like. That's a great. I was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. My beta walked in and I motioned him to come forward. Hunter, I have good news. Something grave has happened, Alpha, he said. I was stopped in my tracks by the anger in his voice. He handed me a blood-stained piece of paper. What is this? One of the guards was found dead from a stab wound. This was pinned to his chest. The mention of death sucked out all the excitement that was flowing through me. I read through the words on the paper. I have something very dear to you in my possession. I'll be waiting for you to come get it. S. Token Moon. My jaw clenched. The telegram was from Stefan. I sucked in a sharp breath. So much was happening today. I wasn't even getting the breathing space to digest one piece of news before the next one came. But what the hell was he talking about?
This is a stupid empty threat.
I hissed. Killing one of my men was just a stupid show of his power. I'm going to kill that bastard. I read the telegram again. What the hell did he mean? Something dear to me? I tried to think of it. The only things dear to me were my son and Larissa, nothing else. Larissa was right in front of me and Declan was. A chill ran through me. I had left Declan in the playroom with Amaya. My eyes widened in shock.
Where is Declan?
Find my son. Now.
Stefan's POV.
Alpha, the woman is here. She brought the little one with her. I jumped from my chair with glee at my beta's announcement. Send her in, immediately. As I awaited her arrival, I could not help but chuckle at the situation. Admittedly, I had not expected her to keep to her own end of the bargain. But then again, what was that saying about a woman scorned? A smile curved my lips. Well, I would not complain. She was essential to my plan and this was just the beginning. My attention was drawn to the door of the council room when I heard it swing open. In walked the vixen of a woman I had met the other day in my quest of finding Larissa, ex-wife to Caden Griffin and mother of the little boy who stood crying by her side. Amaya, I greeted. I see you have kept to your word. I motioned to the boy whose crying was beginning to irritate me. How did you manage to pull it off? She shrugged proudly. I told you it would be a walk in the park for me, and I do not exaggerate. I could have gotten Caden to bed if that whore hadn't walked in on us at the last minute. But everything worked according to plan. I cocked an eyebrow, humming in satisfaction. So Larissa had caught them in a compromising position. Excellent. That was exactly my goal, for her to see that Griffin was a cheating bastard. It would make things so much easier, I reasoned. Next time she saw me she would run back into my arms after realizing her mistake. I'm impressed. Remind me never to doubt you again, I praised in order to inflate her ego. She shrugged. Good. Now, keep to your end of the deal. I don't care what you do, as long as I keep my son and get my money. The only reason I agreed to bring my son to you was because you assured me he'll be safe. I don't want him involved in any of this. I waved her fears away. You don't have to worry about any of that. The boy isn't a part of this. I am only using him to lure Caden out here and push him to pay the ransom. He shall be taken care of, I promise you that. The doubt in her eyes cleared at my words and she cracked a smile. Thank you. I have to leave now, but I will come soon to see my son. She turned to the little boy and squatted in front of him. I watched in amusement as he scooted away from her, flailing his arms in the air. How pathetic. He was obviously not as close to her as she'd like him to be, and it was amusing to watch her try so hard. Relentless, she ruffled his hair. Don't cry anymore, baby. You're safe here. Mommy will come get you soon, all right? When he did not respond and instead squealed louder, she got up and walked away. I hid a smile as I watched her walk off and my eyes trailed down her voluptuous body, which was particularly striking through the tight dress she was wearing. She was a sexy woman. The type I would have liked to dominate and fuck senseless. Too bad I didn't have time for her now. Mark! I called out to my beta as soon as Amaya disappeared from sight. Yes, Alpha. I motioned to the youngling who was crying and squealing. Take the pup out of my sight. And have the maids keep him somewhere. If food is what it takes to shut him up, have them do it. Mark bowed low and picked up the boy. As they exited the room, I thought of how delicious it would feel to strangle Caden's heir with my bare hands, but I pushed the thought away. It would be much more satisfying to kill Caden himself. I did not care for his son, that much should have been apparent. If Amaya thought I actually planned on keeping my promise, then she had another thing coming. Of course I would not go out of my way to bring harm on the boy, but if it came to the point where I had to sacrifice the boy for my cause, then so be it. I would do it without batting an eyelid. Absolutely no one was going to stand in my way. I was going to have Larissa one way or the way, and I would defeat Caden once and for all. Power was the most important thing to me. I fed on it like a drug. It was the very reason why I had sought of Griffinhowl, as Caden Griffin was the only werewolf alive whose powers and influence rivaled mine. Once I defeated him, the world would tremble at the sound of my name. My lips curved into a smile, and I leaned back into my throne, satisfied. The reign of Caden Griffin was coming to an end. And it would be by my hand. I summoned my beta through the mind link and waited for him to arrive. It was time to put my plan into motion. I was certain there was still a commotion going on at Griffinhowl, and this was the perfect time to sneak in and do even more damage. You called for me, Alpha, Mark said as he walked towards me, bowing slightly. I did. Have one of the spies send a message to Caden Griffin. Let him know I have something valuable of his, and I am only giving him 2 days to come get it. How would you like the message delivered, Alpha? I smiled, chuckling at the thought. The usual. Once Mark nodded and set off to do my bidding, I could not help but laugh at the chaos that was about to ensue. Griffinhowl better be prepared, because they were about to have the worst times of their lives. Let the games begin.